Greetings, one and all, to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. A YouTube channel content creator, actively alienating everyone in both the analog and digital world. Well, welcome and good evening, you wonderful dice of all alignments. I'm Lunar D8. It's Hojo! I burst into a run faster than I could speak, so that as quickly as possible I could see with my own eyes that she was okay. Satoko! Satoko seemed taken aback by me shouting and running over to her. Oh! My, what is it, Keiichi-san? You surprised me off the yelling and running. Stupid! Enough about me already. 3 days! What happened, Satoko? I was so worried. Oh ho ho ho. What a worrywart. It was only 3 days. You're such a worrywart, Keiichi-san. From listening to her, she seemed like the normal Satoko, but I could tell she was clearly acting strangely. Her smile was somehow forlorn, and her complexion was bad for some reason. Hojo? Were you all right? Were you sick or something? Tomita-kun and Okamura-kun both expressed their concerns. Just, what happened anyway? 3 days. Do you know how worried I was? Oh, I do so apologize. I was just giving the house a good cleaning. We haven't used it for a rather long time, so everything was covered in dust. Huh? Satoko? What are you talking about? Why would you have to stay home from school to clean the house? Satoko didn't answer me. Instead, she passed by me and headed for the entrance. Gosh, it is nearly about lunchtime, is it not? I am just starving. It was certainly lunch break. I couldn't force her to stop after she told me she wanted lunch since she was so hungry. Well, whatever. Rika-chan's been bringing your lunch for 3 days now. You look like you can eat it today. Let's just go to the classroom and put everyone's minds at ease. You're right. I suppose I may have caused everyone to worry. Oh ho ho. It sure is tough being popular. I put a hand on Satoko's shoulder and we ran to the classroom together. Up close, I was able to verify that Satoko looked somehow weak. All this anxiety was supposed to go away when I saw her again. That's what I thought. But now, I actually started to have quite different fears. She doesn't seem to be sleeping well. I wonder why. What the heck happened to Satoko? Everyone in class, of course, reacted in the same exact way I had. It's almost like we were worried. Yep. It says it right there. We were worried about you. I'm glad to see you well. What were you doing for 3 days? Our classmates showered her in questions. I truly do apologize for causing a fuss. Oh ho ho. As she cackled, she chowed down on the bento Rika-chan had made for her. Those in the teacher's lounge must have been informed of Satoko's arrival because our teacher sprinted into the classroom, her breathing ragged. Hojo-san! Oh, Sensei, I'm sorry for worrying you these 3 days. Oh ho ho. As you can see, I am as fit as a fiddle. My, I was very worried about you. When you are done eating, come right to the teacher's lounge. I have a lot to talk to you about. I must be in for a good scolding for those 3 days I cut class. Oh ho ho. Satoko laughed sheepishly while she scratched her head, and the rest of the class burst out into laughter. The teacher was acting angry, but she breathed a sigh of relief at seeing Satoko healthy and smiling as she ate her lunch with the class surrounding her. What a relief, right, Rena? Huh? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm glad she's okay. I looked at Rena and knew. She had a sense that something about Satoko was off, too. I looked to see Mion detached from the clamor as well with a somewhat grim expression. Well, granted we're all friends, but they've known each other for years. We could tell, even when the smiling started, that something was a bit forced. But we'll just be discreet and wait for Mion and Rena to say something to me. And we'll play it by ear. But Rika-chan, on the other hand, was smiling from ear to ear. She spread out the bento boxes one by one as Satoko finished them. Finally, Satoko was satisfied, and after enjoying a thorough conversation with her classmates, remembered that she had been called to the teacher's lounge. It's such a pain, but I think she'll be angrier if I don't go. I'll go with you. Satoko rises from her seat and Rika-chan runs over to her. I do apologize, Kaiichi-san. I'll be right back after getting scolded. Right. I mean, I could go with you too. We're all comrades and getting scolded in the teacher's lounge ever since the curry incident, right? That won't be necessary. Keiichi should mind the place while we are away. Rika-chan's words were gentle, but the firm rejection was clear in her eyes. The two of them exited into the hallway, walking shoulder to shoulder. After seeing them off, the class breathed a collective sigh of relief, broke apart, and went back to their usual lunch break banter. We, however, couldn't go back to how we usually were. Hey guys! So, not I, not Mion, and of course, not Rena. They stared at the classroom exit Satoko and Rika-chan had left through, their expressions a little distant and grim. We're all friends, isn't that right? I blurted out something strange, so Mion and Rena turned around with dubious expressions. I won't keep anything from my friends, so I'll tell you what I just heard a little while ago. I told them the stories I heard from Tomiru-kun and Okamura-kun earlier about the tofu shop and how Satoko's uncle had apparently come back, all at once without letting them speak, and that's all I know. So if either of you knows anything, please say so. I've said everything I can. I ended my sentence firmly and looked into Mion and Rena's eyes in turn. Rena stared right back at me. Her eyes didn't falter. Without even opening her mouth, I could tell she wasn't hiding anything. Then our gazes turned to Mion. It's not like I was trying to keep it a secret or anything. Mion couldn't seem to endure our silent stares and began to talk timidly as if she was guilty of something. It's just, now that you've said something, Kei-chan, I guess I have to talk about it. Mi-chan, you know something? Well, I mean, I knew from the first day that Satoko's uncle had come home. That he just randomly showed up in Hinamizawa last Sunday. Why didn't you tell us that? I'm sorry. My angry shout caused Mion to flinch away, look down, and hang her head uncomfortably. Keiichi-kun, it's nothing to get angry about. You're scaring me, Chan. Huh? Oh, sorry, I shouted to you. I lowered my head in an apology. Mion accepted it, collected herself, and continued. According to her, her uncle's relationship with his lover, whom he had been with in Okinomiya, had collapsed. Without anywhere to go, he went back home to Hinamizawa, and on that Sunday, the day of the barbecue, her uncle ran into Satoko and brought her back to the house. Why did he bring her with him? Because he's a good-for-nothing parasite. He can't even cook by himself, much less do any cleaning. But that's... He brought Satoko-chan back to have her cook and clean? I remember that she said she'd been cleaning the house when I met her back at the school gate. A moment later, the pieces fell into place, and the jigsaw puzzle of unease. And as for what puzzles depicted, when I saw it from afar, I could see the answer clearly. Yeah, more is happening than just cooking and cleaning. But that... Satoko was locked up at home and tormented in doing the housework. Those are the rumors. If you knew that, why didn't you speak up? I nearly yelled that it's Mion, but hastily stopped myself. Mi-chan, is that true? I haven't seen it myself, so I don't know if it's true or not. Mion looked down again, and staring at the floor, grew quiet. Okay, in another timeline, you were literally leader of a Yakuza that murdered everyone else. Your parents are literally Yakuza. Your grandparents literally have military ties and basically control the entire city. Your distant relatives own and operate every shop and business in the entire part of the entire prefecture, okay? Just like last year. Like when they lived, their mean uncle and his wife. But this uncle is completely helpless when it comes to housework, right? If Satoko's that important, then there wouldn't be any reason to torment her, would there? Maybe Keiichi-kun? I don't know what grounds you have for saying that. I think Keiichi-kun is just in denial because the truth of that circumstance is something he psychologically doesn't want to even admit the partial part of, let alone the full, stuff going on beyond that. But you shouldn't be so irresponsible. Rena clearly and directly got mad at me. You don't know how much about this, so don't talk as though you do. Yes, that's clearly what she meant. Fine, then do you know something, Rena? I don't know anything either. I didn't know her uncle had taken her to the house until hearing it just now. But the situation is different from a year ago. The situation different? What does that mean? I'm sure he's gotten better, And everyone's like, yeah. None of these stories end well. Satoshi-kun isn't here. Satoshi really cared about his little sister. He always stuck up for her. He was her shield, so that she would be affected just a little less by their mean aunt and uncle's fighting. And heck, most of the time, the uncle was too busy beating his wife to really, or yelling at her and yelling and screaming to really focus on the kids. Now, well, there's no diversions. And of course, there's many things worse than that. So these are not happy stories. The mean uncle and Satoko-chan are the only ones living there now. Can't you imagine how stifling that must be, Keiichi-kun? That is not the correct word for that. While that is a negative connotation word, that does not nearly describe how horrific what is occurring. Now you're the one who's trying to do the same thing me and Keiichi-kun were doing by trying to dial down the words we're using to ease the impact of gradually working to outright verbalizing the situation we should be killing Teppei for. Like, if ever there was a situation to go shoot Teppei, it's like, on the one hand, Lunar does not want to advocate violence, but on the other hand, I dislike Satoko's uncle greatly. He only even came back because he broke up with the woman he was staying with. She's also dead. Do you think a person who would come back for such an unpleasant reason would be able to treat Satoko-chan kindly? She was right. It wasn't easy for me to imagine Satoko not being tormented. Yeah, how? In which ways? And how severe? I'm pretty sure if we discuss that in detail, pretty sure YouTube would not okay with that video. It'd be like age restricted. Heck, I'm pretty sure if Higurashi went into full detail, and I feel like they're gonna gloss over certain things, because, otherwise the game wouldn't be allowed on Steam. I'm sorry. Oh no, I'm sorry too. I sounded like I was interrogating you, didn't I? Oh. An awkward atmosphere floated among us. The three of us remained silent and just stared at the floor. Finally, we heard the principal's bell ringing. The teacher came back with Satoko and Rika-chan at her side. All right, we're starting afternoon class. Class president, please. Everybody, stand up. Oh ho, I'm sorry, how rude of me. I couldn't read anything from Satoko's vaguely sheepish expression, but given the clouded look Rika-chan was wearing behind her, it was tough to laugh off the disquieting story I'd heard from Mion. All right. First time in a while everyone's been here. Let's all have a roaring good time with the whole club. Yeah, perfect. Indeed, in times like these, the best thing to do is obviously get rowdy and scheme against one another in a club activity. Just what I was waiting for. Hey, Satoko-chan, let's play. There was that game you liked, wasn't there? What was it again? It doesn't matter which. Tell me. Tell me. Mion laughed happily, took a bunch of games out of the club locker, and lined them up on the desks. I think that was the first time Mion's ever let someone else decide on the game for her. I could tell she was being especially considerate to Satoko, thinking that whatever her circumstances, if we could just enjoy our time together as a group, that might be some comfort, some diversion. Satoko seemed to understand her feelings too, and smiled vaguely, though pleased. But her head slowly moved side to side. I'm very grateful, but your feelings are enough. There are many things I need to do, so even Rika-chan hung her head in remorse. Hey, whoa. Seriously? All the club members are here for once, and we're not playing anything? Desertion in the face of the enemy. What was the punishment for a game for it? What part of the club constitution was that in? Stop it, Mi-chan. We can't force her to play with us. Hey, this old man isn't trying to force her or anything. I just thought it would be more fun and sure if we did something exciting. Really, I'm happy you feel that way. Don't worry, next time we meet, you'll see I'll get you all caught in a gigantic trap. Oh ho ho ho. Satoko, while insulting us, still said she couldn't participate in the club today, and apologized. She quickly put her things into her bag, and pattered out into the hallway, disappearing. It all happened in the blink of an eye. Satoko. Rika-chan stared lonesomely as her friend hurried home, unable to be part of club activities. Silence filled the classroom. Both the cheerful voices of our classmates in the schoolyard and the voices of the cicadas surrounded, like they were coming from some faraway some faraway world. Piff. This is boring. The silence was broken by Mion's bitterness as she began putting the games on the desk back in the locker. Everyone just stared absently at Satoko's seat, now empty. Rika-chan, maybe you could tell us about it now. Rena made as gentle a smile as she possibly could and spoke softly to Rika-chan. Even without hearing it from her, we pretty much knew the situation at this point. Satoko's uncle had broken up with his lover, she's dead, and come back home to Inamazawa. She was found in a drainage canal, and he had taken Satoko home and forced her to do all the household work, and that all had to be pretty rough on her. Thinking this was common knowledge to everyone, I skipped to the important part. Is it really bad? Maybe Mion and Rena wanted to ask the same question. Nobody spoke. We all just started waiting for Rika-chan's reply. Rika-chan still didn't answer us. We were hoping for her to say no, but her silence was a bad enough sign. Last year, was it? It was like this when both her uncle and his wife were here, right? Yeah. At the time, they were mostly just being caught between their aunt and uncle fighting. One of the ways we helped out with the club by reducing her time at home as much as we could, but he's making her do the chores now, so she can't stay at school either. Shit, Satoko's not a slave. That's not the worst thing occurring, but who do you think you are, ignoring your own inability to live properly and basically putting Satoko under house arrest? When you think about it, isn't this really strange? We'd need a lot of circumstantial evidence, but isn't this abuse? I mean, that in itself is certainly, I would say, abuse, but there's other things that are occurring in this circumstance that are a million times worse, and there's other things that are even worse than that. Can't we just notify the police or something? The police are not exactly our friends in this circumstance. We did not exactly hit it off with the police officer, nor is he a good man in this timeline. But we do know the Yakuza, so in this situation, I would not be against asking help from the Yakuza. I would not shy away from that at all. You're right. If we had evidence she was being abused, I think we could tell the police. Would the police even care? We've met the police. Now, Coach might be able to help. Shion might be able to help. I don't know. The people in the village that murder everyone in every fucking timeline, whether it's the Yakuza, the people in charge of the religious people, or all the adults, like the mayor and stuff, and, I mean, we literally have a holiday for this where people get fucking killed or demoned away. And everyone's like, Lunar, Jesus Christ, man. We went from being like, it's horrible to kill people, to, hey, all these timelines, there's people that have been murdering people. Maybe we could work together. And everyone's like, this is horrible, Lunar. You're being a bad person. I'm like, do you blame me? Do you? Given this circumstance, what would you do in this situation? Because this is not a situation I find acceptable. I think we could tell the police, and can't we talk to the region's welfare people about this? Ren and I kept saying police, police, as though it were nothing, but Mion's response sounded like she thought we were a little naive. It's easy for you to say that. Have you thought about the risks of actually getting proof? What do you mean, risks? I think it was 2 winters ago. We reported it to the Child Consultation Center. We told them there was abuse happening to do something right away. Huh? You did? What happened? A person came as soon as we called. She interviewed Satoko and Satoshi about what was going on, and then their uncle and his wife too. I can understand asking Satoko and Satoshi, but wouldn't it be not so good to talk to the aunt and uncle? They said they'd base their judgment on what they heard from both sides. I mean, on the one hand, I do feel that any sort of CPS or stuff has to talk to everyone. You want to make sure you know what's actually going on. And sometimes I do feel those organizations are used to act in times they shouldn't, but this is certainly a time that they should. Even if it were just the cleaning stuff and being left at that. But given the full scale of everything going on, if there was ever a person in this entire game that actually deserved the fucking Watanagashi, it's Satoko's uncle. If there was anyone that deserved the fucking bullshit in that underground room, or the stuff in the back of the shrine, if there was ever a person, it was Teppei. In every fucking timeline. Don't care if it makes me sound like a horrible fucking person. I don't think Teppei deserves to live. I know that makes me sound like a really, really bad person. Heck, it not just sound... Yes, I'm a bad person. I don't think Teppei deserves to live. I don't care. But back to what they're saying is this. Obviously, in that situation, rather than take it as a sign for, by the people stopping by to check on everything, it's not like Teppei would take it as a sign to, like, oh, see the error of my ways, and I'm doing terrible things, and I should be ashamed, and I should fix things, and I should be better. No, more than likely, he'd be a petty, bitter asshole. Immature, sadistic, fucking control freak prick. Who would then take out his additional frustration on the fucking kids, both verbally and physically, making things even worse. Not that they weren't bad before, but worse is certainly not better. Which I would say, even before that circumstance, I would say Teppei is not redeemable in any slight, but even by the standards of the people that would be more merciful in this situation, even the people that would have said Teppei at that point was redeemable, the fact that he became even worse, even the people that would have been willing to give him the grace of not having the rightful death that he very well deserves, even then, their patience and their leniency would certainly be fully drained. Like I said, I know I'm a terrible, awful person. You know, it is awful, and it makes me a very, very bad person to think this. But Teppei doesn't deserve to live. Satoko's uncle does not deserve to live. He deserves to die. He doesn't deserve to live, and he doesn't deserve to have anything to do with Satoko or be anywhere near her. And like I said, I know, that makes me a terrible, awful person. But I don't care. Teppei deserves to die. He is an awful, terrible person. And then again, it's not like I'd have the constitution to actually be willing to fucking do anything to anybody. Heck, even in real life, I've lived my whole life as a pacifist. I've only ever hurt anyone in self-defense. And even then, I've never seriously hurt anybody. Heck, I've never even hit a woman, not even in self-defense. I enjoy violent anime and violent video games. But I find the idea of hurting people IRL to be mortifying. It makes me feel nauseous. But at the same time, the idea of other people suffering, especially anyone I would care about, here I am trying to describe having some sort of emotional whirlwind tempest of being all emotionally upset about worrying about stuff and how I'd feel in this sort of circumstance. But then again, at the end of the day, I still wouldn't actually hurt anybody. I know, that makes me a fucking pussy and pathetic by everyone's standards, but that's just who I am. I have some self-awareness. Despite my interest in very macabre stories, and despite even my own personal mistreatment and certain things that have happened throughout my entire life, I still remain a very non-confrontational person. Heck, if anyone had to criticize me, in fact, usually the main complaint and criticism I have gotten throughout all my life is that I have a very mellow temperament. It's not like I don't get angry. In fact, I get very angry. Heck, I'll at least let it out and yell at video games and stuff and cuss like play Super Meat Boy. But in general, I don't really let it out in regards to life. At most, if I'm frustrated at something at work, 99% of the time if I cuss or something, it's because I actually hurt myself or something. Hit my shin on something, or accidentally hit my arm on a piece of metal, because there's lots of metal where I work, and sometimes I'm trying to move something and it's just, I'm kind of clumsy. But sometimes, I'll get upset at myself. I'll cuss and yell at myself. I'll say very rude, not very nice things to myself. But then, if a second later I see somebody else, or somebody starts to walk within earshot, I'll just be smiling and be as friendly as can be. One, because there's no reason for me to be angry at any of them, but also, I always smile and always make sure that as far as anybody looking at me or talking to me is concerned, everything's completely okay. One, because a lot of stuff is very personal, but even then, even if it's just general frustration, it's just, get used to having a sort of negative viewpoint on yourself, or hearing negative things for yourself, and you sometimes repeat that. Not mentally healthy, but hey, main thing is, I think the only person really ever verbally disparaged in my life was myself. It's funny. I try to be so kind and gentle with everyone else, but I completely fail to do so with me. But in general, I'd say this. I do get angry, and there's lots of things that, even in real life, have been very distressing. And it's nice to, especially in video games, you can, whether it be just randomly cussing at a game like Super Meat Boy, or if it's perhaps diving into certain other, let's just say, melancholic psychological topics that especially certain visual novels seem to skirt around. It's good to at least talk a bit about things, even if not, entirely dancing away from beating around the bush. Sometimes you don't have to be direct to get the point across. Sometimes a bit of tact and subtlety, I think, do the job well. But, and I'd say my own personality, for the most part, I think my personality's relatively stayed the same for my entire life, even since I was probably 7 years old. I don't think my personality will ever change, and I think that's a good thing. In general, there's nothing really wrong with my personality. Granted, I might be a bit awkward at communication. I might be autistic. I don't actually know. All the online tests I've tried taking with that apparently have said that I'm extremely autistic. So that's a thing, but I don't think internet tests count. I mean, I don't behave the way you see people on TV shows and movies that are air quotes autistic behave. And I mean, I do really well at just, I guess the term in the autistic community Also applies to any sort of mental health conditions like depression or trauma or PTSD. It's called masking, where you basically just behave in a way that hides symptoms of mental illness. But then again, it's not like I'd want to talk to anyone at work or in public about personal things, and even then, it's not like I'm directly talking about things for the most part here. Granted, there's sometimes in some videos I've gone a bit more in depth, and there's certainly many community posts where I've talked about various things because I just felt like typing. But a lot of stuff's personal, but sometimes you just feel the need. But in IRL, I'll say this: I talk more on these Let's Plays than I do in the whole rest of my entire life. And in general, most of my life, I just bottle things up. And granted, there was a time, I think about 15 years ago, I talked a lot of my friends' ears off. Some bad things happened, and I felt kind of sad. That was around the time my eldest sister died of the brain aneurysm. That was certainly a negative event, but hey, there was other things. But I appreciate my friends listening to me, albeit I do think I annoyed them a lot. Granted, everybody's gone now. They all had to move and have families and stuff. That's fine. I'm glad for them. I just would appreciate if they texted me sometimes. Heck, today's late Sunday night of Easter. I made a few higurashi videos today. In a couple days, on Tuesday, I'm going to send a text message to my mom. Basically, it's going to be saying that I'm bisexual, but also that I still have no plans to date anyone for a long time, because I just don't feel in a rush for that. And also that, in general, hey, at least I won't have to ever go through a divorce or any of that associated, shit again. That was a lot of really fucked up things that occurred, and I don't want to ever go through any of that stuff again. It was too painful. Hell, I've mentioned a few times now. For the first 5 years after my divorce, for the first 5 years after my divorce, I spent a couple hours every single day sitting in my son's room talking to his stuffed animals. I will say this: at the moment I'm a bit estranged from him. That sucks, it upsets me. But most of all is this: I'm just glad he's alive and healthy and safe and doing well. And the place where he is at the moment, the people he lives with take very good care of him. And they love him very, very much. And he's happy and safe where he is. And he has everything he needs. So that's all that matters. He's in the best place in the world for him. And I just want what's best for him. And I know I made the right decision and all that, because if I hadn't, well, he would have never even lived to see half the age he is now. It's definitely not safe for him to stay with his mother. And it's definitely good that I'm not around that person anymore either. Wish no harm on that person. I just don't want to ever see or talk to them ever again. Heck, sometimes I still think about way back when I was in school. It's funny, I'm 38. And I'll still think about things when I was in high school and middle school. I got bullied a lot. Like, to an extreme amount. And sometimes I think about what other people have said in criticism of that, even after that. Some people will say I should have been more aggressive in those situations, but at the same time, it's just this. There were times I was in fights and stuff, but at the same time, it's just, I give those people the benefit of the doubt, because at the end of the day, they don't know what they're talking about. They had no idea how much was going on, or how serious a lot of stuff was, and exactly how dangerous and lethal a lot of circumstances were. At the end of the day, a lot of times in life, it's best to just leave it like that. At the end of the day, the people that misunderstand about severity of things, I don't want to correct them, because it's easier not to deal with rehashing things from long ago, and at the end of the day, they just wouldn't understand. But at the end of the day, I guess it's just a bit of an annoyance, really, that, you have circumstances where, you went through some bad things, and then you get blamed for how people treated you back, and then it's like, well, even though you didn't do anything wrong, it's like, everyone was just doing all that shit, and it's just like, I mean, could you at least just, I don't know, not basically say that I deserve to be treated a certain way, or that, lots of bad things where people did this or that, like, or like, this various fights. Heck, I remember I was 13, I was behind one of those Quickie Mart things, like from The Simpsons. Spent like half an hour to an hour just getting the absolute fucking shit kicked out of me. Then again, it'd be kind of surprising if I had actually won a fucking 5v1 fight with each person being bigger than me, but hey. I think I got punched a few thousand times, kicked in the ribs, stomped on, slammed to a brick wall, and stuff like that. That sucked. That again, is what it is. And besides, that's, 25 years ago, that? I suppose it's not really that I haven't got over that itself. That's in the past. That's fine. It's more so thinking about how anyone listening to that story would probably blame me for it in the first place, for not being stronger than those 5 people, for not being able to win that fight, for basically calling me a failure, for saying I'm weak and pathetic, and that I need to be better than everyone else, and that this and this is always wrong with me. Or that you can look at any circumstance in the past and people will criticize you, no matter what decision you make. And they'll say, you should have done this other path. But had you done that, they would have criticized you for that. It'd be like if you're at a road and you have a choice of going left or right. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you go left or right. Whichever one you go, they'll say you should have went the other one. But at the end of the day, it's either a lack of understanding or empathy on the other side, or people literally don't care about right or wrong. They just want to be able to give a reprimand to somebody, talk down to them because it makes them feel better. Heck, people generally criticize me as being a very calm, non-violent person. But I imagine if I ever were to behave in the way they criticize me on, even 1/10 of it, they would probably condemn that and say that I need more Jesus to deal with the aggression and the anger and stuff. So it's like, I guess the main thing I'm saying here is, At the moment, it's less a concern of bad things that occurred in the past, which I've had time to process, and more just feeling that there's no one on my side. That no one cares and everyone would criticize and blame me for everything and act like I deserved to have been treated poorly when I was younger. It's odd. I'm just some fucking old guy working in a factory who spends his free time playing a visual novel, rambling to himself about how it'd be nice to have a little bit more emotional support and, I don't know, some sort of positive encouragement and just, I don't know, reassurance that I don't know, I'm not worthless, I'm not a failure, that I didn't deserve to be treated the way I was, that all the bad things that have occurred literally in every decade of my life, literally I can pick any decade out of my life and have a long series of very not good traumatic things that were very upsetting. Then again, that probably sounds like the most pathetic thing in the world. Listen to the stupid fucking otaku weeb talk about how he just wants to feel accepted and have feelings of approval and I don't know, feel like he has value and that he's cared about and that he didn't deserve to be treated badly, and just generally just not feel alone and scared or threatened in this chaotic world where honestly everyone out there probably has all of their own separate shit they go through and deal with. So I really shouldn't be bitching and whining like, you know, you guys listen to this, you don't have your own circumstances that you're having to deal with. But at the same time, like I said, it's good to have some self-awareness to understand who you are as a person and how you feel about things. And from there, you know, I think well, it's not an instant fix, nor is it ever going to be a permanent fix. It's at least a way to improve your emotional well-being, albeit maintenance regularly is required. After all, it's true of everything. Like, say, going to the gym. You can't just go to the gym once or twice super fucking hard and expect that to take care of things. You have to have dedication. You have to go there frequently. Now, of course, obviously don't get hurt at the gym or anything like that. But the main thing is this. Things like that take hard work and time. And even if you ever do get super jacked or anything, it doesn't mean you can just stop working out. You'll just stay muscular forever. You have to keep working out. Same with how you deal with things in your own cognition, your own behavior, in terms of how you feel about things and how you even talk to yourself. And then again, even if you're the happiest person in the world, sometimes you might need time to just take some extra sleep, or just lay down in the dark and just stare off into space in the quiet with no sound other than your box fan, and just lay there, cuddle a pillow, and just sort of just relax and not feel stressed about anything. Allow yourself a little time to just feel at ease, to feel it's safe, to not be stressed or alert or hypervigilant, and just feel nothing but calm. I think that's important for stress. Heck, I think it's important for people to make sure they get, proper sleep and everything too. I'm probably just really weird talking about this kind of stuff while playing a video game. I really should stop trying to talk about things. I'm trying to not go on tangents. But I can say that if I met the me from any year of my life, from as far back as you could possibly go, I can certainly say that the me of any year in the past wouldn't hate me at all, would actually be understanding, and we'd actually basically have the same personality. I've gained more experience, perhaps gotten a little more depressed, and enjoyed a lot of really cool video games from the time I was very young. But in general, I would say my personality's relatively stayed the same, though my short-term memory has gone to complete shit. So, also my ability to focus seems to have really waned as well. Plus, I'm sure a lot of things I knew how to do when I was younger. I'm an Eagle Scout. I used to be able to tie a lot of knots really well. And now I struggle to even tie basic knots. I was once trained as a BSA lifeguard. I was actually really good at swimming. However, at the moment, I haven't even gone swimming at all for like a decade. I don't even think I remember how. I never could ride a bicycle. I have a horrible sense of balance. I certainly couldn't afford those medical bills to try to learn, and there are certain skills I just can't pick up. Then again, I've been trying to learn to juggle a bit here and there, but I keep not really spending a lot of time on that. Same as I want to eventually learn how to speak German, but I bounce around a lot on what I do. Heck, I remember taking IQ tests when I was like 12, 13, and 14, having an IQ of 132. It's certainly lower since then. Gotten a lot of blows to the head since then. Heck, I was even hospitalized at one point for about 8 years ago for a swelling of the brain and swelling of the spinal cord, meningitis and encephalitis. I even had a fucking spinal tap. That sucked. Having a needle in your spine sucks. I got pumped full of so many chemicals to prevent me from dying. Then again, I've also been hit by a truck. I've been in multiple car accidents. But I've talked about those before. Like, one of those was, I had like, one of those big fucking F-350 trucks hit me. Going like 75 miles an hour. Couldn't move my left arm for a couple months. Had like a dozen plus staples on the left side of my skull. All my ribs were as bruised as possible without being broken. Any more bruised, they'd been broken. From my waist to my feet, just large purple and black bruises that felt and looked like the texture of a basketball. That was uncomfortable. Heck, a year and a half ago, I had a less than intrusive bladder surgery, but it was still not a pleasant experience. Especially the first few days of recovery after that, but I've already talked about that. So, But yeah, I don't remember how to do a lot of things, and I don't think I'd be able to relearn them. Not that there'd be any benefit to doing so. Like, when I was in high school, I had straight A's, 4.0, honors diploma, aced everything. I basically had 100% in just about every test and everything I took. And I took classes like calculus, and physics, and chemistry. I was really good at that stuff, but I don't remember any of it. And I don't think I'd be able to relearn it. And even if I could, there'd be no benefit, there'd nothing I'd actually be using it for. It's not like I'd be having a job as some sort of scientist or something. And even then, I'm pretty sure in that sort of thing, it probably wouldn't help that my short-term memory has just gone to shit. Then again, as long as I can manage to get through the job I'm doing each day without fucking up and without getting hurt, and I can at least make enough money to pay rent, then that'll be okay. Besides, I get to do things like play these games, or sit on my PlayStation and play some Assassin's Creed 2. Fun times. Fun times. But yeah. As much as I say Teppei deserves death, which he does, even in this situation I wouldn't instigate anything. I would certainly try to go to others for help. Obviously, heck, I've even made jokes about it in the episode where we had the golf club. But realistically, I'd be using the golf club mainly non-lethally. The main purpose there is there to save Satoko's life. After all, that's the impression we had. But you have to bear in mind, stuff like that is very dangerous, and it'd be easy to kill someone like that. Even if they're stronger than you. You know? Someone much weaker than someone stronger than them can kill them with, a bat or a golf club or something. Stuff like that is very dangerous. Human bodies, while can be amazing at times what they can do in like Olympic stuff, it's fairly fragile. I mean, there's times people sometimes just fall down some stairs and break their fucking neck. There's times where, heck, I've heard of so many bar fight stories, and of course even legal things where I've looked at it, to where like someone gets angry, punches somebody, and the person dies from the one single punch, and it's not like the person punched them was like, fucking Jackie Chan or some shit. And of course some people have to be much more concerned about like that. Take like Mike Tyson. I'm pretty sure if I took a single punch from Mike Tyson, I would die. So at that point, Mike Tyson, his fists are a lethal weapon. I'm sure they're registered as such. To where if Mike Tyson were to just fight some random dude, it'd be the same as fighting somebody like pulling a gun on him. And everyone's like, are you trying to criticize Mike Tyson? No, I'm just saying that his skills at boxing and his fists are as dangerous as a gun. I'm saying that, honestly, the likelihood of Mike Tyson punching an average person and them surviving is not very good. I think the same rules usually apply to anyone who's like a high enough level in like martial arts or like karate or military people that they can't really use they're not like say someone like is a Navy SEAL or Marines or something. I'm pretty sure they're not allowed to use their skills against civilians unless it's like a very dangerous circumstance, and even then it's considered a little bit more, because you are trained as a lethal weapon, because those people have gone through a lot of training and they've proven themselves as being, physically and mentally, at least in terms of everything that would be prudent in that kind of situation, they've definitely proven that they're physically capable of being better when it comes to that sort of stuff than the average person by a mile. Heck, I try to work out. I don't seem to make any improvement. I don't seem to build any muscle. I'm still fucking fat. 5 foot 11 inches, 204 pounds. But hey, one day maybe I'll have a six-pack. I've never had a six-pack once in my life. But it's funny. I enjoy the idea of learning martial arts and stuff like that. And I would certainly enjoy the idea of sparring and stuff, but... And of course, yes, I certainly do have daydreams where I listen to like violent music and think about stuff. I think we all do. I think it's good for getting the brain to pump certain chemicals like epinephrine. But the thought of actually being violent to anybody, it just feels horrible. Which is funny given the fact that, like, say the original Crackdown for the Xbox 360, absolutely amazing video game. And you can, like, you just go around shooting people with grenades and rockets and shotguns. You punch people across buildings, climb buildings, stomp on people. And you even, like, get a harpoon gun. And, like, harpoon 12 people to your fucking car tires of your super police car. And then you drive down the sidewalk with your police car that has people harpoon stapled to your tires as you see them go blip 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 around your tires as you run down people on the sidewalk shooting out rocket launchers out the side at random gang members. That's fun to do. Playing a game like EDF 2017, shooting fucking missile launchers at hordes of giant ants. Playing the Assassin's Creed games. Playing Shadow of War. Playing Halo, going around with battle rifle, playing stuff like that, or playing the various fighting games like Tekken and stuff. That's a lot of fun. Heck, I have no idea how many Goombas I've stomped on in a Mario game. But I'll tell you this, I've never seen a Goomba in real life. I'm not sure what it's supposed to be. But I've certainly seen turtles in real life. And I have jumped on so many fucking turtles in video games. But in real life, I've never thought once to do that. Heck, there's a couple times on a bike trail I've seen a fucking turtle, which I thought was crazy because I'm like, what the fuck? How are you here? Because I'm like, how is a turtle here? And I'm like, what the fuck? How? How did you... I understand there's like a small river, streams that are in a few places there. But still, it's just so weird. Then again, it's probably more weird that I sat there, talked to the turtle for a bit, asked him how his day was, and then tried to explain how to do geometry. Then again, a few weeks ago, I saw a bunny. There was a bunny on the bike trail. I walked next to the bunny and explained to the bunny rabbit the story and a plot line of the video game Brave Fensu Musashi. Best game ever made for the PS1. Still like one of the final boss battles where you fight Iron Mouse the VTuber. I'm more so making that reference because, one, there is a character that looks kind of like Iron Mouse, and two, because I want to try to get the VTubers like Iron Mouse to actually play that game. Because, one, I'm just a really big fan of that game, and two, I think they would love it. That's kind of like there's a lot of people like Zeta plays. I suggest that you play Dragon Spirit the New Legend, an NES game made in 1987 by Bandai. But that was like 11 years ago when he played that game. I really enjoyed watching. I still go back and rewatch it sometimes. Heck, Sir Eldrick IV played Kid Chameleon at my suggestion. Though it also is interesting, there's people like Winsolator who have played ROM hacks of Kid Chameleon 2 and Kid Chameleon 3, which are, whoo! Those are some very difficult levels. But I'm just saying this, I've jumped on so many fucking turtles in real life. Said no one ever. But yeah, it's just my reaction to the turtle was just like, whoa, how are you on the bike trail? and I'm just like amazed by it. And of course I didn't touch it because it's a wild animal and I don't want to like get sick or something. And obviously, it's a wild animal. Granted, the turtle's kind of slow. It's not going to be able to bite me. It's like, oh, your head can't reach all the way back to your shell. Ah ha ha ha. It's like everyone's like, we couldn't see the random awkward hand movements you made to try to make us laugh. Like, I'm sorry. You probably wouldn't have laughed even if you were here to see the awkward hand movements. But I'm just saying, it's just... I enjoy violent video games. If anything, I think it makes people less violent in real life. Heck, I remember Socrates from Greece talking about how Mortal Kombat and Call of Duty and Halo were great video games, and that sort of stuff is important for men to be able to play. And everyone's like, what do you mean Socrates was talking about how violent video games are good? How does that make sense? That man was certainly dead long before Mortal Kombat, the video game, or video game consoles even existed. And the main thing I'm going with is this: Socrates talked about how it was good for people to shoot arrows at straw dummies. How it was good to swing swords at the straw dummies. One, because it was a way of training skills, and it was physical exercise. But also because he said that the emotional expression of it was cathartic and allowed people to have more balanced and regulated emotions. That people who regularly would shoot arrows at the straw dummies, people that would regularly cut apart dummies and stab dummies with their swords, were less violent to actual people. At the end of the day, everyone to some varying degrees, even if you're leading the most happy life in the world, you're still going to enjoy playing a violent video game. But playing violent video games don't make a person violent. And if anything, it provides a healthy emotional release so that they can actually better be a functioning member of society. One thing I think is odd is I'll hear, especially boomers, not that I'm not far away in that age group, but I'll listen to people that are in their 60s and those ages talk about how they think video games are making people violent and how all the crime nowadays is because of video games. And I'm like, I don't think it has anything to do with video games. I think in general society as a whole is falling apart. I think it's the breakdown of the nuclear family. I think for some reason people have less respect and sanctity for human life now. I don't think it has anything to do with video games. I think there's something else wrong with society. And if anything, I think the violent video games are actually a band-aid. That I think what's wrong with society should be making everyone a lot more violent than they are. But I think the video games are acting almost like a sedation to make people less violent, less impulsive. A way to let out that steam so that their little power plant doesn't fucking explode. If anything, another way I look at it is this. I think it's really important for... I think there was this woman who was in her 60s talking about her grandson who was playing a violent video game or something. And she was worried that, hey, the violent video game was going to make him into a bad person when he grows up. And I told her that he'll be fine. He has you. He has you, he has his mom, his dad. He has his family there for him. I don't think the game is the issue. I think it's people not having, proper supports or anything there for them when they're growing up or anything, or in life. Which again, nothing's a guarantee for anything. There's some people that could have all the support in the whole fucking world, and they can still turn into bad people. And there's people that can be completely deprived of any kind of support at all, and they'll still be the kindest people in the world. But I guess the main point I was trying to make to that woman was that in regard to her grandson, that it's more important that she be there for her grandson, that his parents be there for him, that there's all sorts of things in the world, not just in video games. It's not like violence suddenly existed because video games started to exist. Heck, if you look at the Bible starts like we didn't have technology or guns or video games, and Cain picked up a fucking rock and beat his brother to death. People have been doing horrible things to each other throughout all of human history. Even if video games suddenly disappeared overnight, there would actually be far worse violent things for that child to be exposed to out in this world. Heck, every time you turn on the fucking news, it's story after story of just horribly fucking depressing shit. But the main point I was trying to get across to that woman was this. Just be there for your grandson. Just make sure your family is happy and healthy. That's the best thing you can do. Just love and compassion, and there's nothing wrong with having a hobby like playing a video game. Heck, many video games have amazing music, story, characters, stories themselves, yes, separate things. Like, take this game. The story of Higurashi itself is one thing, but also there's the story of each of the characters written individually about who they are as people. If anything, think about a long paragraph describing each of their personalities and who they are. But that's certainly separate things. Imagine if you were to write a 5-page essay talking about the story of Higurashi itself as a whole. But then imagine if you were to write a 5-page essay just talking about Mion and what kind of person she is. Those would be very different papers. The music's great. And of course I like the character designs. Both the old sprites and the new ones, but of course I am partial to the anime designs. But at the end of the day, I'll say this. I can't speak for everyone out there. I don't know what kind of person you are. But all I can say in regards to myself is, I'm fine being me. Even if it's not seen in very high esteem by others. Even though my own personal low self-esteem is perhaps something to work on. I will say this. I do want to eventually maybe build a little bit more muscle. Maybe have a 6-pack. That'd be nice. Maybe be better at jogging and running. Heck, for a while there at my previous job, I was having to do so many fucking thousands semicircle turns that was like, it put too much torque on my knees in weird angles. And I remember coming home from that job, I'd be laying in bed, my chest would be hurting so fucking bad, and both my knees would be throbbing, even though I'd be laying in bed. In general, that stuff's improved. I still feel like I'm not doing a great job at jogging, but heck, I know at one point when I was trying to initially get back into jogging, I remember last spring talking about how it felt like I had a dumbbell glued to the bottom of my tailbone, and how my whole lower back was just screaming in pain from the feeling of the shock reverberating from, every footfall of that jogging. That, one, not only would be really out of breath, but also the impact of, the jogging. I mean, my knees didn't appreciate it, but like my lower back, like everything was just, it hurt so bad to the point, at one point I started wearing a back brace. And even then I had to keep taking little breaks from the jogging just because my body was struggling so much to even recover just from basic working out, that I was trying to do things and I just kept getting hurt. I mean, it's one thing to push through a little bit of pain, but it's another thing if you can feel your body acting like there's something seriously wrong and it's really hurting a lot. All you can do then is try to keep working out but lower the intensity, but it's so discouraging because you always feel like you're not making fast enough improvement. Heck, it's been a year since I said I was going to do stuff to try to get a six-pack, and I'm still fucking fat. I can still reach down to my belly and it goes jiggle jiggle. So, but I guess the main thing I'd have to say, maybe a bit of encouragement to all of you out there, is this: that stuff takes time. And of course, I am cautious about not doing too much because I don't want to get injured. And, well, obviously I do work a physical labor job, so if I were to push myself too hard, I wouldn't be able to do my job. So, it's an issue of just being patient and just being diligent, even though you feel like sometimes it feels hopeless, like nothing you do really matters in anything. I mean, like I said, I know people would criticize me in the regard that despite how upset I am on this stuff and how much I feel Tepe doesn't deserve to live, because he doesn't, I wouldn't instigate anything to try to, like, it's not like I'd show up to try to, like, fucking kill him or some shit. Instead, I'd try to go to any sort of, channel I could that if there were other people or police or even Yakuza at that point. At that point, you're like, oh, but you're going to other people that are probably going to commit violent things. Yeah. I'm not going to lie and say I wouldn't ask the Yakuza for help at that point. I would consider other options first. But yeah, I certainly would talk to the Yakuza about that sort of stuff. But I'd say the only circumstance in real life where I would ever actually seriously hurt anybody, let alone kill anyone, would be a self-defense situation. It'd be a situation that I wouldn't provoke, and it'd be a situation where at every turn I'd do my absolute best to de-escalate or get away from it. I certainly wouldn't be above simply just trying to run from a fight or, humble myself in Vash Stampede fashion, even if it makes me look like a fucking pussy and I just sort of apologize for something I shouldn't need to apologize for. If it prevents further violence, what's the matter if everyone just calls me a coward and a pussy? My goal isn't to hurt anyone. It's just for life to be better. And if I could help people. At the end of the day, any circumstance where I would ever seriously hurt anyone in any way, shape, or form would be driven by one simple concept: survival. Survival of myself or survival of someone else. It'd simply be actions brought of nothing but desperation and no alternatives. Because like I said, I can say this: I have never hurt anyone in my life unless it was self-defense or defense of somebody else. Yes, I certainly do feel angry and upset about things, but I have no desire to hurt anyone. And my mental health stuff, I guess it's mainly just depression, low self-esteem, and talking shit to myself, and maybe a bit of talking to myself in general, but that's more so a reaction to prolonged isolation and loneliness. And I'm also just a generally introspective person, so I like being able to talk out loud. And sometimes it's just me thinking out loud or just wanting to talk about certain feelings and emotions. And it just feels more natural, freeing in a way just to talk out loud. Because a lot of times you're around people, you can't do that. You have to just think in your head, and it's just, I guess it's partly a reassurance that, hey, I'm not in front of a bunch of people. I can actually pay attention to myself and just talk about the stuff that's on my mind. And by saying it out loud, it lets you think more clearly. Well, this may be the cringiest video ever made. Well, at least the cringiest video ever left on YouTube. I once made a 13.5 hour long video, like 3+ years ago, I think. YouTube wouldn't let me upload it because apparently you can't upload videos longer than 12 hours. I re-recorded a couple tiny clips out of it by playing the video and letting OBS run and re-record the sound. But it was only of like 2 spots. A song called Scatman, which is a few minutes long, and then another spot where I did the bendy song, Can't Be Erased. But the rest of it left be. I did a lot of singing and a lot of talking about things. I think I spent a good 7+ hours literally just crying, like really hardcore crying, while laughing at screaming volumes. Eventually, I guess, the human body has a limit to how much stress it can handle, because eventually I just started vomiting and puking everywhere and shaking a lot. So I guess perhaps having too strong of an emotion for too long a period of time is maybe not emotionally healthy. Maybe it's more stress and anxiety than the body can handle. And like I said, I have tons of videos that are cringy as fuck on the internet. I certainly leave those up. But it's just, and well, there are some videos where I've done a little bit of a laugh sort of cry briefly. Those were still a bit lighthearted. Whereas what I did in that video, that sound did not make me feel good listening to it. I just really didn't like the noises I made. It probably would have been at home in a horror game. But I just didn't want to ever hear those noises ever again, under any circumstance. They just made me feel bad. But yeah, I guess if there was ever a video to really display how fucking pathetic I am, or for anyone listening to it to basically be ashamed that I even exist, I guess this video is it. Because I literally sound so fucking pathetic. But hey, that's fine. I fully accept that mantle. Let's continue with the story. Great of them, wasn't it? I feel like I heard sarcasm there. So, what did they decide to do? Wait and see. What do you mean, wait and see? The uncle really studied up on his stuff. By law, you can't call it abuse unless someone admits to assault or child neglect. They poked and prodded Satoko and Satoshi a lot, but it never left any real marks on them. They were pretty much eating 3 meals a day and had beds, and there weren't any recordings or something that could prove they'd said or done anything that would cause some psychological trauma. To be fair, this is 1983. Do even the police have proper recording equipment back then? It's like everyone's like, Lunar, you make it sound like electricity doesn't exist yet. Okay, maybe. I'm just saying this. How common was it even for the police to really have readily access to that kind of stuff back then? Especially stuff that would be, I don't know, concealable? Let alone a bunch of fucking people in school. Like, we can't just go to the local Walmart and buy a fucking recorder or something. Like, what would we have that would actually count as evidence? Well, we gonna take a Polaroid camera and click it as he punches her? None of the villagers had ever actually seen them being violent either. No matter how mean you are, you wouldn't act so violent in front of other people. That's true. I've seen a lot of people who were... Nobody would. Like, here's the thing. Things people don't understand. Like, I've seen a lot of people that were, well, not the kindest of people in private quarters, but in public. Then again, there's lots of people who would still behave violently in public. But nobody would care, so hey. Anyway. Just saying. Like, you guys get what I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, heck, it was such a common thing even back then. In terms of stories. Heck, even Nickelback made a fucking song about that kind of stuff, didn't they? Everyone's like, heck, at one point Nickelback was a favorite band of mine for a while. No, System Down, but I like a lot of different songs and music. But main point is this. A lot of people are just, you know, even if Satoko's uncle was being violent or abusive, doesn't mean they're constantly doing everything. I mean, someone who's abusive, someone isn't like beating the shit out of the person all the fucking time, or saying verbally fucked up shit all the time. Then what happened? It'd be kind of like you go to like a woman getting beaten by a man, and it's like, well, he only beat her the once or twice, and only usually says the really angry things when he occasionally drinks one too many. Which obviously sounds fucked up, but again, that's kind of the reasoning we're going with here. Is that stuff's fucked up and should never happen even a single time. But it's not like the person who does those violent things is doing them 24/7, nor is it something that's, you know, easily seen or in public. So it would certainly make a circumstance like this a bit difficult. Then what happened? Well, a welfare officer apparently went to visit on the same day each week for a while. The aunt and uncle knew they were being watched, though, and didn't torment them in any way that would stand out. Of course, that wasn't the end of it. You mean they ramped up how malicious they were being? Mion sighed and nodded. Their aunt was really damn stubborn, and I suppose that's the other issue with this kind of situation is that if there's a circumstance like this going on, a lot of times, if you try to push on it but you can't actually do anything about it, a lot of times you make it worse. Heck, I think there was a story called How to Kill a Mockingbird that talked about several subjects that I think are important. At some point, they banned it in a lot of schools because they felt like the story was racist. But I'm like, I think the story is important for people to learn about things in the past in terms of the way people behave toward each other. Heck, I would say this story is very important to people, but I feel like this story would probably be banned, but then again, I don't think it should be read in schools. I'm just saying I would certainly recommend to anyone, as long as you're an adult, that you should read this story. Their aunt was really damn stubborn. Because after all, this game is a bit violent. She's one of the most spiteful people I've ever known. Apparently she was doing some pretty disgusting things. Satoko was like a doll that did nothing but breathe by the end of it. Yeah, that sounds almost like she had PTSD or shell shock or something. So what, from the conclusion, does that mean they never should have contacted child welfare in the first place? Understand? Without proof of abuse so clear anyone could see it, there's nothing we can do. In fact, it might even make the situation worse. Okay, that's a more concise way of saying what I was trying to say a moment ago. We messed up pretty bad. After hearing that even public organizations, the one thing they thought was dependable, couldn't do anything, everyone hung their heads. In other words, until we have clear evidence of abuse, we shouldn't notify anyone? Well, maybe not people. Obviously we should consider what we can do, but in the meantime, we should consider the possibility of talking to Coach, or Chie, or the Yakuza, or I don't know, Rika knows elderly people that carve people up. I'm just saying. Yes, again, I'm a terrible person. The only situation where I would actually physically hurt fucking Teppei is if I was actually there seeing him actually hurting person or him physically attacking me. I'm the kind of person I'm not going to do anything unless it's straight up defense, because I just feel such a strong compulsion not to, be the first one. I'm always... Which again, I said, it depends on the circumstance. But I'm just saying in general, I'm the kind of person that even in this situation, I'm not going to do anything or push things to violence unless someone else pushes it first. And I'm not going to hurt anyone unless it's self-defense or defense of another person. But I certainly do feel very angry, and I certainly do feel Teppei doesn't deserve to live. But that certainly makes me sound like a very weak and ineffectual person. That even if I had all the power in the fucking world, I wouldn't just go around randomly killing people. Even no matter how much they deserved it. Heck, even if I had a fucking death note. Well, I imagine I would initially not want to use it. But if it eventually got to the point to where, Teppei is doing very bad things to Sachiko, and the only way to protect her and to make the pain and make it stop where she stops getting hurt, let alone prevent the stuff from escalating to the point that she dies, would be to do that. At this point, we're just arguing semantics on what's it take for you to feel comfortable with the idea of killing Teppei in a way that's you basically going over there and just yelling at him for, being a fucking monster and telling him not to do anything anymore. Which, of course, then he would react violently, and of course, then that's... But at the end of the day, is this... I don't know. It's a mix of emotions there. It's, on the one hand, you want to protect people, and you want to also protect your own life, but you also don't want to hurt people. But again, heck, there's groups of people that are like terrorists in other parts of the world that are actively murdering and raping people and blowing people up and doing terrible, terrible things. In that situation, mercy for the cruel is just the only person that punishes is the innocent people and the victims. But at the end of the day, I'm not the police, I'm not the military, I'm not some politician, I'm not some person making policy, or I'm not the person in charge, and I'm not the person making the choice. But at the end of the day, maybe that's just because I wouldn't feel emotionally okay being in the situation to make the choice, because I wouldn't want to be in that situation. Though I doubt the people in that situation want to be in that situation either. A lot of times when it comes to stuff like that, the answer is, I know how I feel, but I feel very conflicted. But I imagine all of you feel very similarly. And I suppose at the end of the day, we never know how we would really react if we were in such a situation. But this would certainly be a very concerning situation. And above all, I don't want my friend Satoko to be getting mistreated, let alone if Teppei is doing very bad things to her. But one, I'd want to go through official channels, if it's possible to have assistance of police or some sort of authority. I would go that route. And if not, then I would reach out to whoever I thought would be the most appropriate. I suppose in this situation, Keiichi could talk to Coach, to Chie. Mian could possibly talk to her parents, especially since they're Yakuza. Or Rika-chan could talk to the mayor or the old people. We could talk to Shion. We could talk to the rest of the Sonozaki clan. Heck, Keiichi in this situation could talk to his parents about this situation. What they would say, what they would decide, I don't know. I suppose the question is, 1, if you guys were in this situation, what would you do? 2, if you went to others for help, like your parents or authorities or stuff, what do you think they would say to do? Yeah, like I said, it's a complicated situation. It'd be like the situation like if we were just out in public and we see Teppei, Satoko's uncle, mistreating her in public. Obviously at that point we're gonna immediately fucking jump the motherfucker. But in this circumstance, it's all behind closed doors, no evidence, and a lot of times anything we might do would just make Satoko suffer more, to where even if Satoko's like, oh, this bad thing's happening to me and this bad thing's happening to me, we have to acknowledge that both physically and legally, we really don't have any power. And two, anything we could do would come with huge physical harm as well as legal ramifications. And in many circumstances, in most likely scenario, anything we would do would make things worse for her. I mean, if the goal is I want to help Satoko, but I know that the actions I take will just cause her even more suffering, then it's a feeling of confusion about what to do, a feeling of helplessness that, you can't do anything, and any attempt to help will just cause her to hurt more and make more bad things happen. And it's like, you don't know what to do. Though there is a strong compulsion to just, eliminate Teppei, as inappropriate as that is to say. But I'm not going to shy away from the fact that, yes, he doesn't deserve to live. Even if we're just going with the limit of what they are saying that he's doing right now, let alone more extreme things. Someone like that doesn't deserve to live. But it's not like I necessarily have a no-kill rule like Batman, it's just something I feel a certain way about. I just have very conflicted emotions on that. I mean, if push came to shove and it was the only way to protect her, yeah. And if, certainly in that circumstance, there would be a great deal of anger. But it would also be a question of, what am I supposed to do? And I don't know. Well, I mean, basically, yeah. I considered Satoko's current situation. She was brought back to her house. It was a little difficult to call that abuse. She was being tormented and forced to do the chores. How she was being tormented would be the key. Without concrete evidence, it would be difficult to prove. She had some kind of external injury that would work, but as far as we could tell from today, she had nothing like that. And being forced to do the chores, that was a bit weak too. There had to be better evidence that she was without a doubt being abused. I know. Her uncle had ignored Satoko's existence for a whole year and went to live with his lover in town. Didn't that fall under one of the definitions of abuse that Neon had mentioned? Child neglect? Yeah, it's the perfect case of child neglect. What about that, Mi-chan? If her uncle weren't here now, it could be recognized as child neglect. But he's living with her at the moment, isn't he? They were apart before, but if he said something like he had a change of heart and decided to live with her, then they might just wait and see again. Once we reported it, we would need to be absolutely sure they interpret it as abuse. Maybe we needed far more concrete evidence, lest we repeat last year's mistake. It's sad. This means we need to sit quietly and wait for him to be violent towards Satoko-chan, and leave a mark, don't we? The only plan I could think of was, in the end, just watching and waiting. And here's saying, there was a timeline where you murdered everyone over a stuffed animal. There was a timeline where I murdered everyone because I went insane and was paranoid. And took a baseball bat because, well, spoilers. But the main point is this. Regardless of how upsetting a situation like this in real life is, it's very complicated emotionally. It left me in shock when I realized that it would be the same policy as the one that the officials had made the situation worse. As Mion said, reporting it to a public agency would be a gamble. If we're going to pick a fight, it would have to be one we couldn't afford to lose. We were gambling without enough money, without enough evidence. Our defeat would be assured. If it took the time to amass enough money that we could be sure of victory, then that would mean pretending we didn't see Satoko's plight for a considerable amount of time. Sorry for bringing this up now, but how is Rika-chan able to live by herself? Meep. Rika-chan had lost her parents, if I recalled correctly. From what I heard, she had no relatives either. She was forced to live on her own as a result, but her life was unfettered, free of restriction. If she could somehow grant that freedom to Satoko, too. I mean, Rika-chan, you're living without any parents, right? Don't kids with no guardians have to go to orphanages and stuff? Keiichi-kun, that's cruel. Okay, I'm not trying to hurt Rika's feelings. I'm saying if she has some legal loophole that lets her avoid that stuff, then maybe we could use that to let Satoko legally emancipate herself from her uncle. That's my goal. Like I said, I understand. I'm not trying to hurt Rika's feelings. I'm trying to see if there's a legal loophole that would allow Satoko to emancipate herself. I'm not saying it to be mean. I only asked because I thought maybe there would be a hint to saving Satoko. Rika-chan, sorry if I offended you. Rika-chan shook her head, not particularly disturbed. Well, you see, it's because I'm considered the mayor's daughter. Then why don't you live with the mayor? Let me explain. The mayor, Old Man Kimiyoshi, is Rika-chan's guardian. He got official permission from the governor of the prefecture. Huh, so you're adopted. No, not adopted. You can be someone's guardian without being in the same family. How does that work? Oh, I get it. Rika-chan lives by herself, but by law she's considered to live with the mayor, right? How is that? I mean, technically that's a legal loophole, but does that work that? I don't think that works that way, but I'm not going to question if it works in our favor, but... Also, Rika, are you okay living alone? Like, do you need us to stop by and check on you sometimes? Or like, I mean, you're a better cook than I am, but still, I mean, I want to be helpful. That's how Rika-chan avoids being sent to an orphanage. Actually, it would be Child and Family Services, not an orphanage. So more like foster care. Meep. Which usually... I mean, on the one hand, it's good that there's people out there that are willing to take kids in like that, but also... Usually, statistically, those places have a high rate of mistreatment. I don't understand the hard things. But anyway, she's right. Interesting you should say that, Mion. You can be someone's guardian even if they're in another family. Then shouldn't we have the mayor or someone else become Satoko's guardian, if only on paper? Well, the problem with that is this. Technically, it could be the mayor taking in Satoko as well. Or heck, maybe the Sonozakis, who have a fucking senator, or whatever it's called in terms of the Japanese diet. Yes, their Congress is called a diet for some reason. It's like, are you making fun of Japan? No, I'm just saying that I want you to understand. Everyone's like, we understand it better than you, Lunar. Like, fine. I'm just saying. The Sonozakis have a lot of power, not even counting the Yakuza stuff. They have a lot of just straight-up politicians on their side. Surely one of them could listen to Mion, and possibly even Shion, and, adopt Satoko into, like, the Sonozakis or something. Heck, maybe my parents could adopt her. I mean, if I explain that to my parents, my dad has all those people that buy his NSFW furry hentai, art, because apparently that's what Mabura-san makes, because they hint at a lot of this stuff. I'm just saying this. We seem to have a bit more influence than the average person would have. So, one of our families, heck, especially if they work together, should have the legal influence. The only drag would be if, Teppei were to fight against it. Honestly, at that point, he seems like a very selfish, greedy man. So as long as he didn't, say no out of spite, he could possibly just be bought off, offer him money in exchange for allowing Satoko to be adopted by either my parents or the Sonozakis or the mayor. Especially since he's already had dealings with Sonozakis. So he'd be more likely to just go along with it. I mean, it's not like he really loves Satoko either, so it's mainly just an issue of spite and not wanting to be told what to do. But, like I said, he seems like his main priority is self-serving, so if simply offered money, I think he'd accept. And everyone's like, what? You say this person doesn't deserve to live, but you're willing to give them money to sort of buy them off? And I'm like, I mean, if it's an option, sure. I mean, the end goal is to save Satoko. Whether it's via legal loopholes, whether it's killing Teppei, or even giving him money and making his own personal life better. I don't care. It's not like I'm vindictive and I am bent on getting vengeance on him or making him suffer. The goal isn't to be cruel or sadistic, albeit I am angry and, well, disgusted with him, and feel that he's a waste of human flesh and shouldn't even exist. But, at the end of the day, my goal isn't vengeance or to be vindictive. My goal is just to save Satoko. Whether we do that by hurting or helping Teppei doesn't matter. I don't care about hurting him. I just care about saving Satoko. At that point, the means don't really matter. Even if we have to give him money and somehow reward him for being an abusive fucking bastard, at the end of the day, the goal is simply to save Satoko. Whatever works, works. Then she'd be in the same position as Rika-chan, and she could go back to her old life. Too bad it won't work. I mean, her uncle is supposedly her guardian. Wait a minute, you lost me there. What's a guardian exactly, anyway? In legal terms, a guardian and a parent weren't necessarily synonyms. So whoever was actually looking after her at home would be considered her guardian. Then her uncle isn't her guardian. She left Satoko by herself for so long. But if he insists he's her guardian, then that's it. It's been a few days since Satoko was taken back to her house. Her uncle has been paying for her meals since then, right? He is sort of looking after her, so he'd probably insist. And even though he's abandoned her for a year, he's already looked after her for the whole year before that. But the mayor doesn't have that kind of history. So then, if both of the mean uncle and the mayor requested guardianship at the same time, the uncle would make more sense. No, but he'd have a better chance. Yes, but like I said, we could sweeten the pot for him. Especially if we have the influence of the Sonozakis. I mean, some of your relatives are actual politicians with actual authority, and some of them actually are in charge of the fucking Yakuza. And, my parents have the influence too. We pull all that together. We can use both influence and money to just sort of get him to just back off. Because at the end of the day, yes, he might resist out of pride or spite, but at the end of the day, his main priority as a person certainly seems self-serving. So at the end of the day, he'll just simply take what is in his best interest. Especially if he's worked for the Yakuza at one point in the past, and has a concern about stuff that's been happening that's nefarious, especially if the Yakuza simply says, hey, take the deal, and also we won't look into any, concerns we have about how you fucking embezzled money out of us. Which normally I would say is a very bad idea. I feel like embezzling, one, is straight up illegal and very bad. But I would also say that probably the worst people to ever embezzle from would probably be like the Yakuza or the Mafia, because I feel like they wouldn't be very me-like in their response. I feel like they would be very, very thorough and direct and swift and less than kind with their reaction to such a thing. So certainly, them offering clemency in addition to a buyout would probably be all that Tepe would need. So, that'd be our best bet. The term guardian refers to the person actually caring for her, right? The uncle actually has a bed and food for her, but the mayor would just have his name. It wouldn't even be a contest. Then shouldn't the mayor just start caring for her for real? He'd be our guardian name in reality if he did. We just need to shelter Satoko. That might lead to her uncle being desperate to take her back, but we'll stubbornly refuse him. It won't be that easy. Satoko is a growing girl, you know? Okay, what does that have to do with anything? I feel confused. It's not like giving someone a cat. You're asking him to care for a real person. I think the mayor would do that, and there's no harm in asking him. I mean, yes, if he says no, I understand. I'm not going to hold it against him. I'm not going to force the mayor to fucking adopt her. But we need to at least ask him and put the idea up for him. Hell, even the fucking coach guy was wanting to adopt her at one point. And heck, my parents could adopt her. Your parents could adopt her. Your grandma could adopt her. She's not dead yet in this timeline. Then Coach. What about Coach? Coach, he's got a lot of money, right? He's even said it himself. Even if he's not a real father, Coach can become her guardian. Coach would. He would be great at taking care of her. Why? Stop that. I am just trying to help. Why are you angry at me? I understand you're emotional about this, but I mean, what am I supposed to do? Just give up and not do anything? Stop thinking of Satoko like a pet. I'm not thinking of her like a pet. How is it? You're implying I'm not thinking about how serious it is to ask somebody to adopt someone. I know that it's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. It's not like I'm forcing on people. It's not like I'm just going to drop Satoko off at their front porch and say, oh, she's yours now. No. It's, hey, there's this really horrible situation. Would you? All you're doing is talking about pushing her onto someone else. I don't have the legal authority to do shit. The closest I can do to that is have my parents adopt her. You need to think more serious about how much you're responsible is to care for another human being. I am. Again, it's not wrong of me to mention it to these people. They can choose for themselves how they feel about that responsibility. I'm not saying she's a pet. They can choose for themselves how they feel about that responsibility in that circumstance. I'm just bringing up options. Like I said, I don't know if Keiichi will actually... Did you ask him? Did you get an actual promise from him that he'd take Satoko under his care? No, I didn't. But Coach would definitely say yes. Technically, we did get a promise. He literally said at one point he wanted to adopt her. Huh, well fine. Even considering the 0% probability of Coach saying it was okay, then what? I wouldn't say it's 0 even if I hadn't her, but he did say it still wouldn't work. He couldn't become a guardian all by himself. That's right. Coach, didn't he say it himself? He was alone, so he couldn't do it. Shit, what the hell? Why is being such a disadvantage in this... Why is being single such a disadvantage in this society? Then all you could do is marry into a wealthy family, couldn't you? Is there anyone that wealthy in Hinamizawa? I'm not sure. See? It's not that simple. It's hard to adopt someone. That's why we're running through all our options. Well, maybe my parents could adopt her. You can't go into it thinking you'll push Satoko on someone else for just a little while. Yes, I understand. It would be very devastating. You're being naive, Kenshin. No, I'm not. I understand. It would be very devastating for someone to adopt Satoko and then not be able to keep her long term. I understand that. That's why we're discussing this. That's why we're talking about this. I'm at least understanding that you're being a bit worked up because this is a very emotionally high-strung topic. Shit, damn it, what the hell? I'm desperate to think of how to save Satoko and all you're saying is no, don't you care about Satoko at all? Are you even worried about our friend one bit? What do you have to say for yourself? I didn't mean that, but it just won't be that easy, and it's not that difficult a problem. We just need to have some rich people look after Satoko for a while, that's all. Right? What about your family, Mion? You always brag about how great it is being one of the 3 families or whatever, don't you? From what you've said, you must live in a gigantic house. My house? No, that won't happen. My grandma would never allow it. Why not? Then what about your relatives at Okonomiya, Shion's parents? I heard they're living in luxury themselves. There's plenty of shops your relatives manage in town too. Your family are basically millionaires, aren't they? No, that won't work. Going to Okonomiya is even more. Why? My father, he'd never let that happen ever. Why? What? I mean, obviously I'll take it that, but I mean... Hey. What is this sound? Hey, normally you act like some high and mighty bigwig, and now you're being all spineless? What the hell? Is Satoko-chan behind us listening to this conversation? Are you just going to sit by and watch Satoko suffer? No, I don't, but... I mean, I want to help her as much as you, but that's a different story. How is it a different story? How can you be so cold-hearted? Your friend is in trouble. What are you if you don't rescue her? You're our president, our club president. Save her. Save her from this crisis. If you don't save her right now, you're not her friend. You're not even human. I don't know if you have any humanity left in you. Are you listening to me, man? We are perhaps being a little bit harsh on her. I mean, I understand we're upset, but I feel like we're being a little bit heavy on her. My emotions all exploded on me, and I didn't even give her a chance to say anything in response. I just wanted to make Mion agree with me, even if I just had to force her. If she did, Satoko's problems would be solved. Pushing her would solve the issue, then I pushed her as much as I needed. Why aren't you saying anything anymore? I'm asking you, asshole. Well, say something, Mion Sonozaki. Me? Okay. Hick, crying. Mion, looking down with a grim face, began sobbing. Her hands were clenched in a trembling fist, and she rubbed her eyes to wipe away the tears. Was what I said actually that mean? We did go a bit far. This isn't the time to cry. We're in a gambling room now, and we have to do something to save Satoko. And as I thought, Rena spoke, her voice cold and incredibly calm. Keiichi-kun, if Michan's family work, then what if we look for another wealthy family? Okay, what about my parents? I know someone Hinamizawa who lives in a nice big house. Who's that? Oh, come on. You've got a splendid family and you're leaving it out of things? My family? My family is... Your friends, right? Save her, Keiichi-kun. Michan is cold-hearted, after all. Since you're all so considerate towards your friends, you should lead by example. I mean, I'm okay with this. I mean, I was honestly hoping we would go this route. You know? Just the 3 of you are all living in that huge house, right? Is it really that big? I can't tell because it's a fucking picture the size of a computer screen. Then you probably got plenty of spare rooms. You should just give a few of the empty ones to Satoko-chan, and then her worries would all be over. What's this? We're done already? That was pretty quick. Okay, great. Congratulations on solving the problem. Then are we done for today? I'm going home. Hooray, hooray. Maybe I'll go treasure hunting. I haven't done that in a while. Oh, I remember that from the first game. Yeah, I was so worried about Satoko-chan until now that I didn't feel like going to play at all. I wonder what I'll find today. How... Say something, will you? I'm thinking about how to bring it up to my parents. Why am I the only one talking? Because you said a lot of things. Say something, you bastard. Are you listening, Keiichi Mabura? I didn't disagree with you. I'm thinking about, how I'm going to bring this up, but I support your idea. But you don't have to threaten me with it. Even the cicadas seemed to cower in fear. Rena, her shoulders bobbing up and down, and me had forgotten how to breathe. Though, to be fair, I did just yell at me a lot, so yes, in this circumstance, I deserve to be yelled at. Mion, whose face had gone completely pale, and Rika-chan, who was keeping silent as if nothing had happened. The atmosphere in the classroom grew tight and stiff, and it petrified us where we stood. But the big difference is this. When I was yelling at me, she was saying, oh, no, I can't. I didn't refuse a single time. I just thought quietly about, oh, that's an option. And then thought about the logistics about how to do it. It's not like I ever said once that I'd be against Satoko living with me. Rattle. The atmosphere of the room grew tight and stiff, and it petrified us where we stood. Rattle. As Satoko behind us, the sound of the chairs, Rena sat back down, after having stood up, finally allowed everyone present to take a breath. Rena had shown me just how much I'd hurt Mion. Again, like I said, we do deserve to be yelled at in that situation. We did yell at Mion. But, Mion did outright refuse. I didn't say a word of refusal, but I didn't exactly jump on that either. By the way, in this circumstance, Rena was justified to yell at me. Rena's scary. After a few moments, I gotta turn the fan on. It's so fucking hot in here. Oh. 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 After a few moments, Rika-chan cut into the frozen air. That being said, I don't think Kiichi's disagreed with the idea. Yeah, I'm sorry, Rika-chan. Mi-chan, I'm sorry, you too. I don't have to apologize to you, do I, Keiichi-kun? It's fine. Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry for being so unreasonable. Were you saying all that stuff to me before? You said it while glaring at Mi-chan, so I totally thought you were talking to her. Rena had such strength that you wouldn't have imagined it normally. All I did was spout terrible things as a wave of violent fury passed over me. I couldn't contend with her. Mion, I'm sorry. I lost my cool. Come to think of it, I didn't understand what had gotten me that riled up. I thought of myself as Satoko's Nini, so I only had good intentions, that I'd think about it a little harder than everyone else yet. It's okay. You were worrying with everything you had, but all I was saying was nothing would work. So I'm sorry. I mean, we didn't say no to the... why can't my parents adopt her? I can at least ask them. I did something wrong, too. Mion rubbed away the tears at the corner of her eyes with her fists and apologized as well. We bowed our heads to each other and looked down without glancing at each other. Someone, I don't know who, heaved a sigh. Satoko being tormented had been known about since last year. How had the tragedy back then saved Satoko? How had they brought it to an end? Right. In the end, nobody could do anything. All they could do was bear it patiently and wait for those agonizing days to end. That's right. We could still talk to our parents, Keiichi-kun. That seems like a possible solution. And if not, we could figure something out. The one who brought an end to the terrible days was some crazy drug addict nobody knew. On the night of Tatarigoroshi last year, their mean aunt had been beaten to death. But it hadn't been done to save Satoko or Satoshi. Right. It really was just a coincidence. Satoko's friends who needed to do something for her most of all could do nothing. The instance may have been a tragic one, but from Satoko's point of view, it was nothing less than a miracle. Yes, a miracle. A miracle one could only wait for. Is waiting all we can do? Not for evidence of abuse, not for something like that minor. Huh? Wait. For what? A miracle. No one made fun of me for using such a crazy word. We couldn't come up with any solutions. So it was the only thing we could do. Like I said, talk to your parents, Keiichi. Powerless. That one word Mion dropped was the finishing blow. It was hot. My body was sticky with sweat. The worst month, June. I'll say this, if there was a circumstance for the supernatural deity of the fucking city to, jump in, seems like a good time. I walked forward quite a while, so they turned right where the rice fields ended. I suppose we've been recording for a while. I need to stop going on tangents, or else we'll never get through the games. Well, I'll see you guys around. Later.